In the deep, winter-bound imagination of the North, where the wind howls through the pines like a grieving widow, there is a sound that chills the blood of gods and men alike. It is the panting of a beast that has been running toward the end of the world since the dawn of time. We have always looked to the sun for warmth and to the stars for guidance, but the old Norse knew that the sky is not as eternal as it seems. They knew that hanging above the world, waiting in the dark spaces between the stars, was a mouth large enough to swallow the light. This is the tragedy of Fenrir, the wolf of chaos, born not of sin, but of the terrible, inevitable machinery of fate. To understand the monster, you must first understand the world he threatened to unmake. Picture the Norse cosmos, a great, sprawling tree called Yggdrasil, whose roots drink from the springs of wisdom and whose branches touch the clouds. Here, the Aesir, the gods of Asgard, are not infallible immortals. They are warriors, builders, and keepers of order who know they can die. They live in a golden realm called Gladsheim, surrounded by the wild, raw chaos of the giants and the Jotunsa forces of ice and fire that seek to unravel the weaving of the universe. Into this delicate balance, a seed of ruin was planted, not by an enemy, but by the god of mischief himself, Loki. The story begins in the shadow of Asgard, where Loki, the trickster, fathered 3 monstrous children with the giantess Angrboða. There was Hel, the half-dead queen of the underworld, Jormungandr, the serpent of the world who circles the ocean, and Fenrir, the wolf. From the moment he opened his eyes, Fenrir was not merely a beast. He was a prophecy of violence made flesh. The gods watched him grow from a playful pup into a terror of muscle and fur, growing faster than the changing seasons. His eyes burned with a cold, ancient intelligence, and when he snapped his jaws, the sound was like thunderclaps. The gods looked upon him and saw the twilight of the gods, Ragnarok, staring back. They feared him, and in their fear, they forged the first chain of their own destruction. The All-Father, Odin, whose one-eye sacrifice for wisdom saw the doom written in the runes, decreed that the beast must be bound. They approached Fenrir with a smile, masking their terror, challenging his pride. Surely, such a powerful beast can break this fetter, they said, presenting a massive iron chain called ladinging. Fenrir, young and arrogant, let them bind him. With a single, effortless flex of his limbs, he shattered the iron links as if they were dried twigs. The gods retreated, their fear deepening, and forged a chain twice as heavy, called Dromi. Again, they challenged him. Again, he let them bind him. Again, he burst the chain, sending shards of steel flying like shrapnel. The gods realized that no mere metal could hold the force of chaos. Desperate, they turned to the master craftsmen of the realms, the Dark Elves, who forged something that defied logic. It was a ribbon, a silken bond, soft as a silk ribbon and smooth as a polished stone. It was called Gleipnir, made from the sound of a kata as footfall, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird of things that do not exist, woven together into a fetter of magic. The gods brought Fenrir to a lonely island called Lyngvi, in the middle of a lake called Amsvartnir. They presented the flimsy ribbon. Fenrir sensed the treachery. "This ribbon holds no shame for me," he growled. "But if you bind me with this and I cannot break free, it will be a mockery of my strength. I will not do it unless one of you places a hand in my mouth as a pledge of good faith." The gods fell silent. This was the price of trust. Only one god, the bravest and the most silent, stepped forward. Tyr, the god of war and justice, who had often fed the wolf and knew him best. Tyr knew the prophecies. He knew his hand was the price. Without hesitation, he slid his right hand between the razor-sharp fangs. The skalds say the gods bound Fenrir then. They wrapped Gleipnir around his legs, around his chest, around his throat. The harder Fenrir struggled, the tighter the silk became. The supernatural cords bit into his fur, invisible and unbreakable. He roared, a sound that shook the earth, and he thrashed, kicking his legs, but the more he fought, the more he was entangled. The gods laughed, but the sound was hollow, for the deed was done. Fenrir snapped his jaws shut. Tyra's hand was severed at the wrist, falling to the grass as a sacrifice to necessity. The pain did not leave Tyra's face, but he did not cry out. The gods, to ensure Fenrir could not howl and cause earthquakes, took a sword and thrust it through his upper and lower jaws, pinning his mouth shut. They dragged the beast to the deepest, darkest caverns, where he howls still, waiting. There he lies, the river of venom flowing from his mouth, forming a pool called the Hope. He waits for the day the bonds will rot. That day is Ragnarok, the doom of the gods. It begins when the winter of winters descends, when brothers fight brothers and the world unravels. Fenrir will feel the vibrations of the Earth's dying breath. With a final, earth-shattering surge of strength, the son of Loki will snap Gleipnir. The gag will tear away. He will open his mouth, stretching it so wide that the upper jaw touches the sky and the lower jaw scrapes the earth. He will consume the stars, the moon, and finally, the sun. The world will plunge into darkness. And amidst the burning of the world tree, Fenrir will face Odin. It is written that the wolf will swallow the All-Father, killing the father of gods, before being slain himself by Vidar, Odin's son. Why did the Norse tell this story? Why focus on such a bleak, violent monster? Fenrir represents the ultimate truth of their cold, harsh landscape. That order is fragile and chaos is relentless. The myth of Fenrir is an acknowledgement that the things we fear most cannot be destroyed, only delayed. It is a story about the cost of safety. Tyr lost his hand to keep the world safe for a little Laundra, a sacrifice that bought time, not a solution. It encoded a fatalistic bravery in the Norse people, the understanding that eventually the winter will always be too long, the wolf will always break the chain, and the sun must die. But the wolf is not just in the past. We hear him still. We feel the panting of the beast every time an eclipse turns the day into night, casting a shadow of fear over the birds and the beasts. We see him in the way we describe our own most dangerous impulses, our inner demons, as wolves at the door. Fenrir is the archetype of the untamable force within nature and within ourselves that civilization tries to bind but can never fully domesticate. So, when you look up at the sun, safe in its warmth, remember that the ancient Northmen knew a secret we sometimes forget, that the light is on loan, and the dark, the wolf, and the winter are waiting just outside the firelight. We are all living in the time between the binding and the breaking. And the only thing we can do, like Tyr, is keep our promises, pay the price, and face the dark without flinching.